Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. We have been committing ourselves to reaching out to people like you watching at home because we've all dealt with what's happened over the past couple of months as one family. We've had no choice, literally, other than that. There have been strangers who have been helping strangers in their most dire hours when it seemed like all hope was lost. We're all grieving today as a family as well. But at the same time, a lot of remarkable things have happened. A lot of remarkable people deserve the gratefulness, the thanks, and the recognition of this country. There are many heroes amongst all of us in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our friend circles. And we've committed ourselves that as many as we can, we want to tell you those stories because amidst disaster, there's a bit of story of hope. We're calling it the second wave superheroes, and literally they are. Here is the story of Abhishek Singh. He is an IS officer. He launched a portal not only for plasma drive, something called Oxy Taxi to deliver oxygen at doorsteps, and also drive-in vaccination centers, which have now become all the rage. Here's the man behind all of those great ideas. Abhishek Singh, listen in.
When the pandemic showed that India's healthcare system was lacking on multiple fronts, actor and IAS Abhishek Singh emerged as a superhero. As blood banks were unable to meet plasma demands, Abhishek launched a portal to facilitate plasma donation. Amid oxygen crunch, he also started doorstep oxygen delivery with his initiative called Oxy Taxi. He also started drive-through COVID-19 vaccination where people could drive in to the venue and get vaccinated without stepping out of their vehicles. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero Abhishek Singh.
Hello and a warm welcome to NewsX Second Wave Superheroes. I am Ajasti Chauhan and today I am joined with IAS and actor Abhishek Singh, who's been helping people throughout the second wave of coronavirus. Welcome to the show, Abhishek.
Thank you, Jaspreet. Thank you so much.
I would like you to begin by telling our viewers about your initiatives and how exactly have you been, helping people.
So we started with this initiative by the name United by Blood. And the concept behind this initiative is that all of us as human beings are one. We might be staying in different nations. We might have different religions, regions, castes, age, fashion, gender, but all of us are united by blood. And this pandemic has taught us that all of us are one. And that is the concept behind this. So we started with a plasma donor portal wherein we started connecting plasma donors with the recipients directly on real-time basis. This app, we developed a website which captures real-time locations and it connects both the recipients and donors directly. Second, what we started doing was we started free oxygen delivery at doorstep. By way of Oxy Taxis. We started with few Oxy Taxis. Now anybody who is in need of oxygen can call us or can register on our website and we will be delivering oxygen free of cost at their doorstep. Third thing, what we started was drive-through vaccinations by the name Vaccination in Car. So people can go to our vaccination sites and they can get themselves vaccinated without even getting out of their cars. They just have to roll down the window, vaccinators will come and vaccinate them, then they have to move ahead. There's a 30-minute observation period for AEFI. They will be held there in case of any adverse reactions following immunizations, and then they can proceed forward. So this is what we have done so far. We are also planning to start door-to-door vaccination. We are just working on the modalities for that.
Also, I would like you to tell our viewers that what exactly was the motivation behind starting this? Because as I said, not a lot of people, start doing all this.
So the motivation was that, because there was so much of information asymmetry that was flowing in, especially in the second wave. People were getting panicked and they were not getting credible information, and credible resources they were not getting. So we thought that we should build a platform which is robust, which is credible, authentic, and gives information on real-time basis and can actually help people in some tangible manner.
You must have been, in direct touch with a lot of patients and their families. I would also like you to tell us if there were any emotional moments that, moved you or, yeah, please tell us about those moments.
So during plasma donation, when we started with plasma donation process, I would tell you that we have more donors registered with us than the recipients. This also shows that we as Indians are eager to help people. It's just that we are not getting proper platform, proper channels to help those in need. So, I tell you, when we used to deliver these oxygen cylinders and the way people used to respond, that हम इतने दिनों से ढूंढ रहे थे, हमें नहीं मिला, हम इतनी देर से ऐसे कर रहे थे, and when people started spreading the message to other people, those who are in need, and we started our response started picking up. The requests started picking up, and we started getting more and more requests. We started feeling very happy, and anybody who is in need of these things at such critical juncture, you know how they are going to respond, and everybody is the same. We all have faced these situations in our families during the second wave. Everybody, almost every family has suffered a loss during these times, and this is our little initiative, little effort in to help people in whatever way we can. So that's how we are doing it.
Right. Also, a lot of people are now predicting that the further waves or a third wave is now inevitable and it will surely come. So, how do you think should India prepare, and what are your preparations for that? Will you be helping people then as well? Yeah.
As we have also read in articles, in various research articles by various doctors, the third wave might affect children in particular.
Yeah.
And if children will get affected, the whole family will get affected, because children, A, they are very vulnerable, and B, they need some attendant in the ICUs, in the hospitals. So what we are planning to do is we planning to vaccinate either of their parents, especially mothers. So young mothers need to be vaccinated on priority, and that's what we are aiming at, and that's what we are planning to do very soon, to identify the young mothers and to make special provisions for them to get vaccinated as soon as possible.
Okay. Also, any advice for the youth? So, as I mentioned, that a lot of people did come up, but then there were also a lot of people who refrained from, helping people, thinking that they will get infected and all of that. So, any advice? How should youth react in such times, and how can youth contribute towards helping the nation during such testing times?
I think the most important contribution that they can do is to stop spreading unverified information. That will be the real help, because people, I saw them just forwarding messages without verifying, without applying their mind, without even knowing what they're forwarding. Such unverified leads are actually very, very dangerous for people who require information in a critical time, because time is very, very less. And if you give them such misleading information, then it is actually it might cost a life, and you will be responsible for that life. So I would just say that if you are not able to do anything, don't do anything. Just sit at home, be safe, but don't spread any information. Don't forward any information without verifying it yourself.
And there was also a lot of misinformation around vaccine, like people were saying that women who are on their periods should not take the vaccine and all of that, which was all misinformation. So yeah, that is one thing that people should not forward without verifying.
Yes, certainly. I would just want to say that this pandemic has made us realize that the Earth, the planet, is one. nationalities are not sacrosanct. So one should not be very fanatic about religion, region, caste, sex, fashion, taste. All these things are there as part of life, but in the end, we are all united by blood. We are all human beings, and one thing that binds us is blood. So let's be kind to each other, and that's the learning that we should take from this pandemic.
Thanks for making that point, and thanks for joining us today and all the good work, especially that you've been doing for the society. It's really great. Thanks. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joseph. Thank you.
That was the second wave superhero Abhishek Singh. Up next is Akanksha Sadekar, somebody who gathered together others and delivered 20,000 meals over the course of the last couple of months. She's in conversation with my young colleague Rishi. Listening.
India was caught up in the gruesome second wave of the COVID pandemic, with Pune being one of the worst hit cities in the country. Amidst the chaos, Akanksha Sadekar distributed over 20,000 food packets to health workers, police personnel, and poor street dwellers since April. She mobilized a small group of people via Twitter connections who volunteered and helped distribute the food packets in the city of Pune. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero Akanksha Sadekar. Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Rishi. At a time when India's healthcare system was overburdened and the government was failing, there were some people out there who put their foot down and took the onus on themselves to help out the needy. Today, on a brand new episode of Second Wave Superheroes, I have one such person with me, Akanksha Sadekar, an engineer by profession. Akanksha has been consistently working on providing home-cooked meals to people in various localities of Pune in these unprecedented times. Welcome on the show, Akanksha.
Thank you, Rishi.
I would like to start off by asking you a very basic question. What was that moment? What motivated you, fully aware of the fact that you could be risking your life going out? Just take us through the journey of how it all began.
So, Rishi, I have a younger brother who's a doctor, basically a medical intern as of now. And initially, when the restrictions went up in Maharashtra on, I think, the 5th of April, was when I saw a tweet on Twitter by a doctor who had said he'd come back after a really long shift and there was no food available because food deliveries had also stopped after 6 p.m. So he was going to eat Maggie that night and he tweeted about it. That really moved the sister in me, thinking about my own brother, that it could be my brother tomorrow who could be in such a situation. So I just tweeted back saying that I anyways cook for myself and my younger brother, and I can always make an extra meal and send it out to him if he is somewhere close by in Pune. And that is how literally the thing started, with me putting out a tweet to healthcare workers, doctors, medical students, anybody who was working during the COVID-19 pandemic, the second wave. I wanted to just do my little bit of helping them out.
Wonderful. So when the COVID-19 restrictions were implemented in Maharashtra in April, I think it was first week of April, even food delivery services were suspended for a while. How were you able to deliver food to the needy in such a scenario?
So that time there was a slight ambiguity that you could get out of the house before 6 p.m. The lockdown wasn't absolutely strict around that time. So I would make all the deliveries for the food before 6 p.m. After the lockdown got a little stricter, the Nakabandi kind of started happening by the police. They started stopping, asking where I was heading out to or why I was out on the road. And I would just very honestly tell them, show them the dabbas and say, see, this is what I'm doing for people. And they became the biggest support. They then started telling me about more issues and more areas that I could cover. And slowly I started also giving out dabbas to these policemen and other areas as well.
That's great. You started this initiative on social media. How has the response been on these platforms? How do you keep a track of the request and how do you streamline the whole process of reaching out to people?
I think the only platform that I've used for this is literally Twitter, because Twitter has been one of the biggest help for reaching out to people. Most leads came in through Twitter, or the other way of reaching out or finding where food was needed was literally the police on the streets. They would tell me that there are clusters of people, migrants, destitutes, sex workers, street dwellers, basically. So it was either Twitter or it was meeting people on the streets and finding out where food was needed.
There are multiple people out there providing food and different services at nominal costs. What sets your initiative apart is you don't charge a single penny for it. How are you how are you managing the funds, and are you in collaboration with NGOs? Do you take donations? Just take us through this.
We're not in collaboration with any NGO. When I started off, I did not even see this going on for more than a week, So initially, when it started kicking off really well, I decided that I did not wanted to work with anyone else, for the primary reason that I was really against sharing of pictures of the way the poverty is shown in media, or people do selfies and all of that. So I did not want to collaborate with anyone. Till date, we are only a team of 4 to 5 people, because I have a very strict this thing of not sharing pictures of the work. And so initially getting donations was a little difficult. And then I started inviting volunteers locally in Pune. When they started writing off, donations started coming in from people on Twitter. And most of it was self-funded by me. I was very lucky that I had some savings that I could put into it. So self-funding and donations from friends, family, and a few strangers from Twitter has been great.
All right. My last question to you is, we know that COVID is here to stay. The third wave is inevitable. How do you plan to take this initiative forward?
So we've already started a fundraising campaign on Milap and Give India. We are preparing for the third wave already now. If it doesn't happen, that would be great. That is just something that we want. But if it does, we are anyways going to continue our work, because they're saying that the lockdown might be eased on the 1st of June. So we're moving more, instead of providing hot meals, then we'll start providing ration kits to people that we've worked with in the past. We've provided hot meals to, so that we know that the ration kits are not being abused, and there's no kind of anything else happening there. So it's reaching people who need it. And fundraisers are on for the next wave. So we don't know how bad that one will be, or what we are going to experience during that time. So we're trying to do our best.
Thank you for joining us on NewsX, Akansha. Kudos to you for the service you've been doing, and all the best for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, let me take the opportunity of inviting in my young colleague Prerna, who's in conversation with Shirley Uday Kumar Panikar. She's principal of Powai English High School, and she's been helping young people, dozens, if not hundreds of them, by paying their school fees in what has been, of course, a difficult time. Let's listen in.
In the midst of the second COVID wave, when many schools pressurized children to pay their fees, Shirley Uday Kumar Panikar, principal of Powai English High School, paid fees of over 200 students. She saved one whole year of many needy students whose parents lost their jobs. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero Shirley Uday Kumar Panikar.
Hello and welcome. I'm Prerna Shandilya, and as part of NewsX's very special series, Second Wave Superhero, today I've been joined by Shirley Uday Kumar Panikar, who is the principal of the Powai English High School and has paid fees of over 200 needy students in her school. Welcome to our show, ma'am.
Thank you, Prerna. Thank you so much.
Shirley, tell us about your experience of the pre and the post-COVID times as a principal, and how your role has changed, during this unprecedented time.
Yeah, the post-COVID time was really tough. There was lots of problems, not only for the staff, also for the parents. And it made us think many a times what we can do to the society. It was just, there was a lot of backlogging of fees, which we came across. And when the parents started coming to us, it became very difficult for me to understand what I should be doing. It was like a changeover for me. I'm not a social service person, but we normally go with the daily routine and teaching. That was a part and parcel of our profession. So once this came in, and the parents came, the children came, you can see the changes in children also. You can feel it in the face. And that made me a little bit uncomfortable. And I thought what I could do for this. It is a total change of my character also. To be frankly speaking, I was not like this before. Maybe it is there within me, but later part, you start thinking. That thinking process has made a lot of changes in me. So because when you sit in that seat, and mine is a private school, and you just can't let things go like that. So there is a change that has happened during this COVID, sitting in the house, not meeting people, but we are still constantly in touch with the parents. Teachers are in touch with the parents, and the teachers have been very supportive. We call, we have the Zoom meeting, we have everything, and we are actually in touch with each other. We know what is going around, and that made a lot of difference for
All right.
us.
Okay, Shirley, tell us about your fundraiser. As we know that you have helped over 200 students during this pandemic. So, what led you to take such a decision, and how challenging it was for you?
As I told you earlier, that when the children came in, it was really tough for me to see them that way. I could find their eyes getting moist, when you ask them to pay the fees and the parents are telling they can't pay the fees. Somewhere or the other, it pinches your heart. It will be not only for me, it will be for many others. But sometimes you have to be strict because the school runs with the fees, especially private school, it runs with the fees. So you can't just go. So I found that I have to change something, and I started collecting a little bit. It started with a local newspaper, which comes around every Sunday. I talked to the CEO, Mr. Shrivastava, what we could do actually for the children. So he told me, they all are very senior and very experienced as a captain. So he told me, Shirley, let's put up an appeal in the paper and just see that. So we put an appeal without the name of the school because we didn't want that thing flashing out. And locally it is there. So we started, this appeal started moving around in the WhatsApp groups. That made a difference. It went to many KV students. I belong to a KV, Kendriya Vidyalaya. So I have almost many ex-students there. And out of that one, Metro, there's one company, private limited company, which is in Chennai. They saw that appeal and they just called me and told me I would like to donate because they're also from the KV, like to donate. And they gave around 6.5 CSR. And after getting that, okay, the thought came in mind that why can't I try with companies? Because whatever sponsorship I was getting was very, very small amount, maybe 1 student, 2 students, 5 students, nothing beyond that. So it became very difficult to collect money. And during this COVID time, I think everybody had the problem, whether it's rich or poor. And asking something was, you can't ask friends, you can't ask anybody. So this, I thought lets me send emails to big companies. I sent many emails. Absolutely zero response, unfortunate. No response because lump sum amount of emails they'll be getting it every year. They will be just deleting it. They won't even probably see also or read it. Then we thought we sent a courier to some corporate sectors which is close by. After that, one IRB from Chandivali, from our Powai area itself, They gave around a sponsorship around 14.5 lakhs, nearly approximately around 14.5 lakhs, and for 50 students they sponsored. That was really amazing, and that was a real kind gesture of both these companies, and that's how it all started. But still the mails continued, responses were absolutely no, and individual sponsors came one or two, and so on. And it's only recently, maybe 3 months or something, as the things started changing a little bit, individual sponsors started coming up, maybe for 10 students, 5 students, and it crossed 40. That is surprising. And as we got the money, we started giving it to students. We didn't backlog it. Immediately, we started clearing off, because it will be a good relief for the parents once the fees is paid. So we just started, as we got, we cleared it. We kept on clearing it. And that's how it, almost more than 200 students we have covered.
All right. Shirley, since I'm speaking to you right now, I find it very important to ask you, because you're a member of the teaching faculty in India, what do you think, how bad is the situation right now, as we're learning that, exams are being cancelled, students are confused what's going to happen next. So tell us how bad the situation is on ground, and what advice you want to give to these students.
If you're asking advice to the students, the children some of them are really happy because they have no exams. Some of them are really worried, especially those children who have high rankers. They are really worried because they would want to score the best. They would have wanted 90 plus, 95 plus. They were just waiting to just conquer this world. For them, it's sad. For the rest of the world, it's okay for them, but the life has to go on. And it's really tough, it's tough for parents, it's tough for teachers also, because even still we are not, sure about how to go about it. They have told, okay, take 9th standard, 10th standard. Things, the confusion is still there, and I hope everything will be cleared in maybe a week or so. And let's hope everything goes fine, and our children will be in a better place.
Definitely,
they'll go to college, they have that, okay, I'll be going to college, and they would surely love that experience also.
Definitely, we can only hope for the best right now. Thank you so much, Shirley, for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your insights on the situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prerna. Thank you so much.